Hey, this is John again, and it's day 8. Feeling a little better than yesterday, and you see that I'm wearing this is what I go out and hike with, like my t-shirt, have some shorts. It's warm here, and I decided to take a shorter hike today because my energy's still low. So I did about a half-hour hike. The other one's about an hour, maybe an hour 15. So I went to Hedge Creek Falls. It's not far from my house. It's only about a 15-minute walk. So that was good. Um, what I'm noticing today is that I'm getting like dizzy. I mean, for example, if I get up or if I'm crouching or squatting and then I stand up suddenly, then I get super dizzy. And uh, I'm actually seeing like colors and shapes and stuff. It's almost like being on a little bit of an acid trip. So let's see, is there anything else I want to tell you about this? Oh, one of the things I didn't mention before is that I've noticed that my teeth get furry. Um, and so I have an electric toothbrush, Sonicare, and what I do is I just brush with that without using any toothpaste. You don't want to put anything in your mouth because the body will get triggered by that. The body will think that you're going to eat something or you are eating something. So anything that you put in your mouth is you don't want to do on this particular fast routine. And I am constantly thirsty. I'm always drinking something. So I always have a water bottle with me. When I go on my hike, it's only a half-hour hike, but I drink about half the container that I take with me. Today, what I think I want to talk about is relationship. And when I talk about relationship, I'm actually talking about connection. I'm a certified coach with One Taste, and I was I was in a conference call with them, with all of us, and it just reminded me about relationship and how it's about connection and how easily relationships can become disconnected or how connection can go into disconnection. There are so many ways that we get disconnected. One of the big ones is when we withhold. And what I mean by withhold is that what we want in a connection is to be able to talk to each other, to share things that may be difficult, that may be vulnerable, that maybe we're afraid that the other person won't take it in a nice way or that they're going to get upset. I was in a relationship when I was in LA, and I shared a lot of vulnerable stuff that she didn't particularly like. And I tried to do it in a way that didn't hurt or harm. And you want to be clear, you want to be concise, but you want to be kind as well. And I did my best, but eventually she got through whatever upset that she went through, and we became closer. So that's one of the things about how to create intimacy is to share vulnerable things. And I think that most relationships, we withhold a lot. We withhold desires, we withhold our feelings, we withhold all kinds of things. And so when you share withhold, it's not about blame, it's not about hurting the other person. It's really about the intention to come back into connection. And oftentimes, in terms of communication you know, that because communication is one of the biggest things that connects us. And when we don't communicate, as in a withhold, then of course that's going to create disconnection. If we, but I want to talk about communication maybe a little more broadly, that oftentimes when we communicate something, we have a meaning, we have what we want to say, we have an intention. Not always, because sometimes we just kind of riff off the handle. I mean, it's like we'll say something without really thinking about what we're saying, without an intention, and maybe it's a response to whatever we got from the other person. And so that's usually not a good way to communicate. But even if we have an intention and we communicate, what will often happen is that, of course, the other person is going to perceive something. Now, that perception is not necessarily going to be what we were trying to convey. So that the other person may get upset. And oftentimes that'll happen. And so one of the best ways, one of the most powerful things that we can do in communication is to ask questions. So we perceive something and we think this is what they said, but maybe it wasn't. And especially if we're going to get triggered or we get upset, that it's really good to ask questions about, okay, did you mean this? Or what did you mean by that? Or, you know, use this word. So there's a lot of ways that you can ask questions. And the more questions you can ask, the clearer the communication becomes. And the questions don't have to be targeted questions. I mean, in other words, questions sometimes can be, they may not be to get more information or to get clarity. Sometimes we ask pointed questions that are about, let me think of an example. Why the fuck did you say that? So that would be not a very good question. But what did you mean by that? And remember, you always want to ask questions without hostility if you possibly can. So let's see, where am I at in time? All right, we're at around 8 minutes. So I just wanted to give you a few tips around relationship. And I consider myself, like I said, a conscious connection coach, which means it's about relationship. And it's not just about relationship with other people. It's also about your relationship with yourself. You know, how connected are you to yourself? And how connected are you to life? And then, of course, how connected are you to other people? So I'm going to keep sharing little tips, if you want to call them that, as I do these videos. All right. Have a great day. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to end it here.